Before the movie begins, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our latest content. The film starts with Simon accompanying her husband, Eric, and their children as they leave the Netherlands and head to France to claim her share of her mother's inheritance, which includes a large house and a sum of €200,000. Upon arrival, they are surprised to find that the house is very old and requires extensive repairs to be livable. Later, Simon takes her kids to the supermarket to buy some groceries, while Eric tries to fix a few things around the house, but everything he touches seems to break. At the supermarket, Simon picks up a juice box, but a handsome young man appears, takes it from her, and hands her another, saying it's better and that she'll like it more. When Simon returns to her kids, she's shocked to find only her son there and asks him where his sister is. He says he doesn't know. Simon frantically searches for her daughter but is relieved when a man appears, bringing her daughter back from the play area. She takes her daughter and leaves without even thanking him. When they get back, they find that Eric has fixed the plumbing and turned on the water in the house. The next day, Simon takes the kids to school, as they've decided to settle in this house and continue their studies there. At the end of the day, Simon and Eric take their children out to dinner. Suddenly, the man who found their daughter appears. Simon tells her husband, "That's the man who found our daughter, and I didn't get a chance to thank him." Eric thanks him and invites him for a drink. They get to know him and find out his name is Peter, and he works as a contractor. They ask him if he can repair Simon's old inherited house, and Peter agrees, going with them to assess the repairs needed. The next day, Peter sends workers to start the work, and Simon meets one of them, the handsome young man from the supermarket, named Michel. Simon feels flustered when she sees him. Later, Simon tries to break a piece of wood, but Michel approaches and tells her she's doing it wrong, offering to show her the correct way. He holds her hands, guiding her close to him, and shows her the technique. She succeeds and looks pleased. Afterward, Simon sits with her children, looking through old photos of her mother, though she sadly doesn't recognize anyone but her mother in the pictures. In the evening, Peter sits with Simon and Eric, discussing her mother and how she managed to marry and have children on her own. Eric responds, saying, "The important thing now is that Simon inherited €200,000 from her mother." Simon pulls Eric aside, warning him that this might make Peter greedy, but he reassures her, saying that Peter is a good man and that she should trust people more. However, it turns out Simon's instincts were right, as Peter starts making changes to the work outside the original agreement. While Simon is gathering firewood, Michel surprises her again, offering to help. He takes the wood from her and places it inside the house. Michel lingers nearby, moving closer to her, which makes Simon feel nervous. He touches her arm and looks at her before leaving. Simon is stunned and wonders how she allowed it to happen, only to be startled when her cooking starts to burn. As she eats with the workers, she exchanges glances with Eric, and the next day, during a shopping trip, Peter suggests adding an extension to the house, expanding the space after learning about her large sum of money. Seemingly aiming to take advantage of her wealth, Simon meets a woman at the market who warns her about Peter, and advises her to avoid him. The next day, Simon tells Eric she wants to buy decorations for the house, and Peter suggests that worker Michel accompany her, as the store selling those products is an hour and a half away, and she needs someone who knows the way. Indeed, Michel goes with Simon by car, and upon arrival, they find the mall is closed. He suggests taking her somewhere quiet that he thinks she'll like until it opens. In the car, Michel sings along to the music playing, which Simon enjoys, as this lightheartedness is new to her and brings her joy. After a while, he takes her to a quiet spot and starts talking to her, asking about her dreams. She replies that she hopes the house will soon be ready to live in, so they can feel comfortable. He tells her the house will still need several months to be completed, and asks her to share a dream that could come true now. She says she'd be happy if her kids and husband adjusted to life in France, and loved it. Michel, however, isn't interested in these dreams and tries to lead her into other topics, asking, "Why are all your dreams tied to your husband and kids? Why don't you think about yourself? You should pursue your own happiness too." Then he surprises her, moving closer to kiss her and telling her that she's very beautiful. Simon is shocked, staying still as if nothing happened. Afterward, they return home, but Eric receives a call informing him that his mother is ill, and has been admitted to the hospital in the Netherlands. Simon tells him she'd like to travel with him, but he asks her to stay behind to look after the workers and take care of the kids in school. He suggests she ask her sister to come stay with her until he returns. After he leaves, her sister arrives, and Simon is glad to have her company. Her sister teases Simon about Michelle, saying, "That worker is really handsome." That evening, Simon tucks the kids into bed and goes to enjoy a warm bath. Suddenly, Michelle enters, watching her. Simon is shocked, but she doesn't feel afraid, and they exchange glances. She quickly rushes out when she hears her daughter calling, but unfortunately, her daughter sees Michelle exiting the bathroom behind her mother. The next day, Simon and her sister prepare to pick up the kids from school, but Michelle reminds her they need to collect the rest of the decorations for the home renovation, and he needs to accompany her. When they arrive at school, Simon asks her sister to take the kids for a meal outside, telling her she'll go with Michelle to pick up the orders and return quickly. She does indeed go with Michelle, who takes her to his place, where things escalate, and they engage in a relationship. Afterward, Simon returns home, preoccupied with what happened. The next day, they're working at the house, exchanging glances that hint something is between them. When Simon enters one of the rooms, Michelle follows her, and they become intimate again. This time, they are interrupted by another worker calling for Michelle, so he hides, and Simon pretends she was just looking for a medicine box. This becomes a daily occurrence, as Simon regularly visits Michelle's house. They spend time together, talking about their lives, before being intimate. Eventually, Simon's sister leaves, knowing Eric will return soon. Before leaving, she tells Simon that she's not blind, and neither will Eric be. He'll find out sooner or later. This scares Simon, and she hurries to Michelle's house, hugging him and kissing him, telling him this will be the last time. She asks him to find a way to stop working with Peter. Eric and the kids return soon after, delighted to see him again. The kids tell him they're bored whenever their mother leaves them alone. Eric asks, "And where was your mother?" His daughter replies, "Mum was in the bathroom with Michelle." Eric is surprised and gives Simon a questioning look, but she manages to cover, saying the water heater often breaks, and Michelle was fixing it. She escapes the situation smoothly. Afterward, Peter, the contractor, proposes an investment project on Simon's land, suggesting they get a share of the profits, but Simon firmly rejects the idea. Later that day, she and Eric have an argument, as he feels embarrassed before Peter because of her refusal. In the end, he hugs her, and the day ends peacefully. The next day, Simon feels unwell, so she decides to take a pregnancy test, shocked to find out she's pregnant with Michelle's child. When she visits a doctor to consider an abortion, he tells her it's a crime and he can't help, leaving her feeling lost since she knows the child isn't her husband's. When she returns home, Peter pulls her aside and shows her photos of her with Michelle, threatening that if she doesn't agree to the project, he'll tell Eric and show him the photos. During lunch, Peter puts Simon on the spot, announcing to Eric that she's agreed to the project, surprising him with her sudden change of mind. Peter hosts a celebration for Simon's agreement, beginning the project on her land. He invites them to a party at his house, and there, Simon sees a picture of Michelle on the wall, discovering that Peter is Michelle's father and that Michelle lied about his father being dead. She realizes both father and son conspired to exploit her. Simon storms out, with Michelle following her. She says, "I just discovered that you and your father deceived me, and the biggest mistake I made was meeting you. Now I'm in a predicament because I'm pregnant with your child." Michelle is thrilled and moves closer to her, but she pushes him away, saying she'll get rid of the child, and he slaps her. At that moment, Peter was listening to their conversation. When Simon saw him, she spat in his face and walked away. The next day, she rushed to Eric and told him that they needed to get rid of these people, because they were taking advantage of them and deceiving them. Peter began to confess, telling Eric that Simon was pregnant with a child who would be his grandchild. Eric looked at Michelle, but before he could say anything, Simon pushed Peter, causing him to fall and hit his head on the ground, dying instantly. Everyone was shocked, and Michelle urged Eric and Simon to leave quickly while he dealt with hiding the evidence. Afterward, Michelle left a voice message for Simon, asking her not to get rid of the baby. They then hurried to pick up the children from school, and on the way, Eric looked at Simon with disdain and sadness. When they returned home, the police arrived and arrested Simon for Peter's murder, after finding photos of her with Michelle on Peter's phone. Simon was imprisoned, deeply saddened by the impact on her future and her children's. However, after some time, an officer informed her that she was innocent because Michelle had confessed that he was the one who killed Peter. Simon then realized that Michelle had sacrificed himself for her. As for Eric, he decided to separate from her, but she felt a sense of relief and gratitude that Michelle had given himself up for her. And that concludes today's summary. If you enjoyed the movie, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the notification bell to stay updated with everything we offer.